Hello everyone and welcome to Otivo Towers. Today we're going to be taking through a walkthrough of the Otivo platform. My name's Paul Feeney. I'm the founder and CEO of Otivo. I will be your host today as we walk through Otivo, where we will be helping everyone be better off. The fundamental thing, before we get into it, we want to give you a bit of an idea about Otivo and what we're here for. Financial planning and personal finance can be quite complicated, confusing, and even intimidating for a lot of people. It's our job at Otivo to make that feel a lot easier and simpler for people to approach. We do that by giving you access to personal financial advice where you take control, you tell us about yourself, and we answer the one question that everyone's got about money: what do I need to do next so that I can be better off? We've always found that making it personal, making it relevant to your situation, provides a lot more value. And as you go through that, you can see on the screen right now that we can add a great deal of value to people's financial lives just by helping them out to understand what's the next best thing that they can do. Throughout today, my colleagues will let me know when questions come through, so feel free to type them in there and we'll interrupt where we need to, or we'll just hold them back at the end at a relevant time. So without further ado, before I log in, different people can have access to Otivo through different sort of areas. You can go through to otivo.com and sign in that way. If you're lucky enough to be working for an organization that's using Otivo, you can go through to their site. You've probably got that from their intranet or from the Yammer channel or wherever it may be. And then also, some of you may actually have access to an employee assistance program called Wellbeing Gateway. You can access that through a unique link or through their actual app. So feel free to jump on to Otivo afterwards, and also feel free to reach out to us at any stage with any questions that you may have. Without further ado, I might just jump straight into the platform and walk through where we are. So when you sign into your initial platform, you have to go through a two-factor authentication process. Excuse me while I just put in the right link and password. Plus 17. I've just created this one just before the site. And so when you log back in, it's very important that security is of utmost with your personal identifiable information. So you'll set this up and you'll get an SMS to your phone to send that extra code in, because we want to make sure that your personal information is always secure. And don't worry, we do not share your information. We won't advertise to you. We won't sell you anything. Our job is purely and simply to help you be better off by giving you that personal financial advice. So when you do log in, you'll come across and you'll see these 4 different tiles. These are the different areas of advice that we'll help you with. So first and foremost, are you in the right investments? It's really important here that you take the right investments given your age, but also identify the one that's not going to take too much fees from you, because that can really damage the overall balance of your superannuation when you set out to retire. But then also look at how you can boost your super. There's really 2 ways to boost your superannuation. That's to ask your boss to take a little bit out of your salary each month or every 2 weeks to put into superannuation. And then also, if you're lucky enough to have a lump sum and other aspects of savings that you can put into superannuation, will help you understand if that's good for you and what is the appropriate level for you to put in. The last one is insurance appropriate for you? And if so, how much should you have to ensure that you protect your loved ones just in case that bus 43 comes along one day and an accident happens? So let's jump straight in now and look at how investment advice inside your superannuation fund is. So we've set this up already. I've got John and Jenny, an accountant and a school teacher. To start off with, being a financial advisor, we have to make sure that the advice is right for you. So these screens, when you first come into each area of advice, will talk about what we're going to cover and what it's limited to. So we really want to make sure that you understand, and if it's not right for you, you can go on and get advice elsewhere. So we're looking at John here. He's an Australian superannuation. He's age 40. We just want you to put in the balance, so $100,000. And then we've got all the different investment options that are available inside Australian Super. Now, your superannuation fund may be a bit different. So when you're on board, you'll choose that super fund. And when you come to this section, it'll just be the investment options that are available in your super fund. So John here is in conservative balance and he's only got one investment option. So he saves that. And now we can go through and identify what John should be doing regarding his investments. So down here, we basically say, look, John, based on your age, we think you should take a more aggressive approach with your investments. That's why we recommend you move to Australian super high growth. So we've looked at all the different investment options in the super fund, and we've taken them into 5 different distinct buckets. At the moment, John's conservative balance option sits right here, 50-50 between growth and income. But because John is only 40, we want him to have a higher percentage of investments towards growth. Why? Simply down here, why we've made that recommendation. So all the way through the Otivo platform, we'll tell you what you should do next and why we're making that recommendation. For John, he's age 40. So there's another 20 years before he can actually access his super, but probably another 24 or more years, hopefully, for his life expectancy. So superannuation's got 44 years to go before he actually can utilise that to fund his retirement. Further up here, we look at his balance start of 100,000 and we can see the difference of the 2 different investment options, the blue one being where he is and the red one where we're suggesting he goes. Even give a little highlights of what's happened in that annual year through the time. Then we come down here and we compare the option where he is now, the Australian conservative option, look at the best year over the last 5 years, the worst year, the average return, and the fees are being paid, where he sits in the risk profile, and then comparing that to the other option that we're recommending. What we always like to do then is tell you why we're recommending that, but also giving John the option if he's interested in something else. We'll always give at least one alternative that he can consider if he wishes. Now you'll see these choose buttons along the side. Let's assume that John goes, this makes sense to me. I think I should go to high growth. I've got a lot of years before I can touch my super. Let me choose that. This is where the lawyers get involved, being highly regulated. They dictate the way that we've got to go through this, but it's really important to give you the opportunity to understand that you're now going to move between Australian super, conservative balance and high growth. So you can download your legal document, the statement of advice, the SOA that we call in industry. But more importantly, what we want you to do is either click on this link to go to Australian super or whatever your super fund is, and that'll be the appropriate link at that stage. And here's even the phone number for the contact centre for Australian super, where you can call them up and say you want to move from conservative balance into super high growth. And then we can go through one more thing, like, yes, I'd like to proceed. If you then click this one more button, we now, as Otivo on the platform, we've made the judgment call that you've made this call now to Australian super and you've made that change, and your plan will now reflect that. And as you can see up the top now, we've just got that one investment option. And so now you might be thinking about, well, what are other things that I can actually do to improve my superannuation? Investments alone will make a big difference, particularly given the global climate at the moment. I think a lot of people are worried about that. So having that certainty and confidence that you're in the right investment option is a great start. After that, it's how do we put more money into superannuation so you can accelerate that growth so you've got a better retirement at whatever age you choose to give up work and turn on that income stream from your super. The most common one is for individuals to take money out of their super, out of their salary. Legally, it's called the salary sacrifice. So we'll click on this one. And instead of doing that, we'll take you over to a platform here where I've actually built one out. We've got to log in again. The security, these guys, they take it very seriously at Otivo. I'll just log into this account that I've pre-built for you just to save a bit of time. And when you go through the process, you'll see modals pop up and you'll have to enter extra information. Stuff about your income, your expenses, that for your spouse as well, if you've got a partner, so that we've got a full picture of what's going on in your financial life so that we can actually give you the advice that's relevant to you. Rather than saying to someone like you does these things, Otivo always wants to make it relevant exactly for your personal situation. So as I said earlier here, we've got John and Jenny. They're looking to retire when they're 60 years of age. And you can see their income coming through. They've put a goal of $80,000, and that's that to retire on. That's that red dotted line. And we've basically forecasted through what their income's going to look like. Jenny retires a little bit earlier. She's a bit older. But then we go along and fundamentally when you retire, you're going to not retire just on super alone. Most people are going to be able to access the government age pension. So we want to come along here and show John and Jenny exactly when they would start receiving it. And at age 70 and 72, they pass the complicated tests of age, income and asset tests and all the complications. We've taken that complication away from you and just making it much more easy to follow so you can see how long your superannuation will last. We'll see by the time they're 81 and 83, they'll be flatlining the age pension. So what we want to do now is, what is the next thing that John can do to improve his superannuation balance so that income can last longer? So John, we recommend putting in $1,300 a month from your salary. It'll only decrease your take-home salary by $918. The reason for that is that we're putting that $1,350 in before the government takes their share for tax. So if you were equivalent for that, it would only cost your cash flow afterwards by $920. Now, what Otivo's done is your income and your expenses. We know how much you have left. We put some aside, because I think all of us, me definitely, underestimate how much we spend each month. And then we calculate what is a safe level for you to put into your superannuation. But then we come along and say, well, what's the benefit? It can improve your desired retirement income by 6 years. All of our advice comes through and says what to do, what's the cost, and what's the benefit, the 6 years. But again, we want to give you the choice. You're in control of your financial life. So further down, we scroll down a little bit here, and it talks about the salary sacrifice. So if you did nothing, this dark blue line here will get John to $430,000 by the time he's 60, which is his desired retirement age. But if he follows our advice, an additional $300,000 would end up in his superannuation. But he might go, well, hang on, what if I change that? That seems like a lot of money. The slider here, you can slide that down or enter the amount in the box here, and automatically, the great thing about Otivo is that you change one variable, all of the advice gets recalibrated to take that into account to reflect exactly what you want to do. But don't worry, we've got the guardrail set up. This slider goes from 0, and it won't let you put more in than what you're legally allowed to put in, or the available cash that you have available at the moment. And then John can choose what he wants to do. So you can see putting in $668 a month, it'll only cost him $454, and it'll improve his situation by $160. There's one last thing that John has to do now. So we click on the how to action this advice. His job now is, he's told us he wants to do this, put that amount of money in. He can download that legal statement of advice, but what he really has to do is he has to have a chat with his employer, whether it's the boss or the HR department. He's got to send them a note. Here's an email template you can fill out. Click this button, we'll email that to John. He then fills in the gaps, sends it through to the head of HR. They'll figure that out for the next pay run. And there you go. Salary sacrifice is on its way. There's nothing more for John to do. There are other ways you can actually come through and do extra contributions into superannuation. I won't go into that detail right now, but if you've more questions and if you want to get into that later on, we can. But this is money from your savings, putting into super, and the real kicker here is you can claim a tax deduction, providing you pass certain criteria, and we'll guide you through that. Who doesn't love a tax deduction from the government? So if you've got savings, and if it's right for you, we'll nudge you along and suggest how much you should put in and what that's going to do for your superannuation in the end. What I'll focus on now is personal insurance. It's a mystery for most of us, and why we need it and what we should do. It's difficult to understand all the different types of insurance, all the nuances around them all. So what we've done through the modals that have popped up when we gather information about your financial situation is that we've looked through it and said, well, we understand your debts. We understand your family situation. We even understand if you want to send your kids to private school and how much you think that's going to cost. So here for John's situation, and it's all going to reflect your personal situation. You're never going to get advice from Otivo that says someone like you. So here, John should have almost $550,000 of death cover. He's told us already that he's got $50,000 of cover that his work has already got for him. So given that, we're saying increase his death cover to almost $500,000 inside his superannuation fund, because we don't want to make sure he's not overinsured. The real thing is, how do we work this out? This nice little pop-up table shows you the purpose for insurance here is to make sure if you're no longer here, your loved ones don't have to worry about where to live. They can pay off the home. They don't have to worry about income. We're going to give 2 years of income for salary, and also education costs for the kids and funeral expenses. But they're going to take some cash and superannuation he's already got, So that's how we come up with the figure. So now you've got an idea of exactly how much life cover you should have to protect your loved ones and your family. Then we go to the next types of insurance that we have with inside superannuation. Salary continuance or income protection. This gives you cover if there is an illness and you can no longer work. And so your biggest asset for all of us is your ability to earn money. For John, on $120,000 over the next 20 years, that's $2.4 million. Let's just think about that. He can insure himself for $2.4 million of income for the next 20 years by utilising salary continuance inside his super fund. Definitely something that we should all be looking at. And then total and permanent disability. If you have an injury that stops you from performing your job, you get a lump sum payment that assists you in making the transitions and how that's going to impact your life. And so that's essentially what the platform does. And I've just clicked a button on the side here called Download Your Statement of Advice. When you see a financial planner face-to-face, and the cost for that can be quite prohibitive for most of us. So we're trying to make advice available for everyone through our digital platform here where you're in control. But when you do go along and see an actual financial advisor, they will take all this information that you've provided here, give the advice, and they'll provide it to you in a document called a statement of advice. What it is, it's a record of all the different pieces of advice that we've just walked through in a single document so that you can refer back to that and even keep that as you wish. You can download that as many times as you want. Most people, though, when they utilize Otivo, what they do is they look at the advice on the screen. But there's your document. We come back and we look at, what was that salary sacrifice they sort of said I should do? And come back and have a look at that again. The great thing, before we stop and go back for questions, is that right now, John and Ginny might be going, stopping at age 80 and running out of superannuation is probably not the best for us. What if we retired 2 years later? And as I said before, if we change just that one variable, everything on this platform gets recalibrated, even the advice and everything else. So as the algorithm works through, the graph is going to regenerate and show you how much longer your money will last purely and simply by actually working those 2 extra years. So as you're utilising Otivo, you can put the information there, get the actual advice, but you can use that as a bit of a scenario tool. And it's quite engaging to understand what's the impact of today's goals or decisions on the longer term output and impact on your financial situation. So as we wait for this graph, and there's an awful lot of calculations going on in the background here, so we'll give it a little bit of a moment. But now you can see instead of running out at age 80, they take an extra 3 years. Just by working 2 more years, you get extra 3 years of income in retirement. So it's really good for John and Jenny to understand the impact of those things there. Look, what I might do now is I'll leave that there and see if you've got any questions that have come through to the team on the side here as well. I'll just log in here and see if the questions are. At the moment, I don't think we've got any questions coming through from individuals, but the common questions I tend to get from people really is around how do I change my salary sacrifice amount, the advice that you gave us. So it's really coming down into these sliders. And the great thing is, as you go through that, you're in charge of determining the level of input that you want to do. So it's really changing that along and moving that around. And the other side is then how we can help with insurance. It's really around getting that understanding. And it's, from our perspective, the most important thing that we want to do for everyone is provide the financial confidence that you know what is the next best thing to do. Now, after all this, we're not stopping here. There will be more advice journeys and different modules, and you'll see updates continually across this platform. You'll also collect nudges that you get from Otivo. Some of them might say, hey, come back for a couple of minutes, enter a few bits of information, we'll tell you about insurance or contributions into superannuation. But we're going to start adding in extra things like a new dashboard that looks at life events. We're going to look at things that help you track your expenses and really understand all the outgoings so you can actually improve your wealth and your situation. But also add in debt. How do you manage your debt a little bit better and really pay down those debts? And more importantly as well, when you do have ongoing credit card debt, our focus for you is to just get rid of that. For me, probably the weapon of wealth destruction is probably a credit card when it's not used well. But going forward, our goal really is to be here for you, to enable you to understand what the next best thing for you to do so that you can be better off. I'll just check if there's any questions. If not, please feel free to reach out to us on any emails and come back to us whenever you have any questions or thoughts. Thank you very much.